to Norway. So I'm so excited to be here. We actually, to be honest with you, got here last night. By last night, I mean like 1 a.m. And it sounded sketchy, but it wasn't because we're away and it's literally safe and the infrastructure is amazing here. But we had to walk to a convenience store at like 2 a.m. and then walk across the city. We're in Oslo, by the way, and then walk across the city to our apartment, and it was like 2 in the morning, and I was like kind of worried, but it actually turned out to be fine. And it was just so pretty walking through the city in the middle of the night. I don't know, it was awesome. But anyways, we're gonna have a super busy day today. We're gonna try to hit up all the attractions, and yeah, so come along with us. Before we got to Oslo, we paid online for passes that allow us to use the city's transportation and get into most museums for free. Also had to get this pastry that was staring me down. We then walked to this beautiful area where we went to this museum all about the Norwegian resistance against Nazi Germany in World War II. I have never been educated on the German occupation of Norway, and I found it very interesting. From there, we enjoyed the amazing weather and went to the legendary Nobel Peace Center. This was my favorite museum. We got to experience an exhibit about the effects of nuclear warfare on Japan and some speeches from Nobel Peace Prize recipients. We saw the actual coin, inspiring artistic displays on how to understand one another and work towards world peace. From there, we hopped on a ferry and took it through the Oslo fjord to Museum Island, which had various exhibits of royal life in Norway, as well as replica villages of life in Norway throughout the centuries, with actual people reenacting what it would have been like to live there. It honestly felt like a time machine. We went to a very much anticipated Kon-Tiki museum, which is all about a Norwegian man named Thor, who took a group of other men from South America to the Polynesian islands to prove that it was possible for ancient civilizations to travel from South America to those islands on these huge rafts. He built it himself and successfully completed the journey, and the entire world cheered him on. Across the way, we went to the Fram, which is a very interactive museum about the Norwegian adventurers who explored through the Arctic. I was absolutely amazed with how much I felt like I was on a ship heading into the South Pole. Then we hung out for a few at the Oslo Pride Festival before walking through the famous opera house located right next to the ocean, and wrapped up our museum day at the Munch. I don't know much about this artist, but I know his piece, The Scream, is world-renowned. I found his art a little depressing, and we finished this amazing view of Oslo. We walked through the shops and streets before calling it a day. Bright and early in the morning, we got an 1.5 hour long flight to Narvik to start our journey in the Lofoten Islands. Once we landed, we picked up our rental car and went straight to the grocery. Side note, look at the color of these strawberries. I ate the entire box in 10 minutes. We started our road trip and it was about 70 degrees out. It was so gorgeous. The sun was shining and we were living the dream. The beauty of this place is completely unbelievable. We made it to our first campsite, Museilen Camping. Also, Norwegian is very difficult, so I'm sorry if I mispronounce the names. We set up a camp and then had some beer and a snack. Hey guys, we have our little tent set up. Our first day of camping. And the weather is amazing. The next morning we went on a hike. It was a little gloomy that day and we were a little nervous going up, but the views from the top of this hike were gorgeous. These fjords were made by glaciers a long time ago that came through the land and made these huge waterways. From the top, we even saw a cruise ship scooting by. After that, we went to our next campsite, Kongsmark Camp. This one took our breath away. We got a nice, secluded spot and even made friends with a local. I'm not a cat person, but this kitty demanded we be his friend, so we played. And then he wanted to get into our tent and I told him no, and he gave me the look of shame. We went on a short evening walk by the camp and found a river and a small lake to end this amazing day. The next day, we drove to a small village to try out a cafe called Bergen. We got a latte and a croissant, but we ate the croissant before I could show you guys, sorry. Just down the road, there was this breathtaking beach. The ocean here in Lofoten has a glacier blue hue to it that makes it so magical and also very icy cold. But that didn't stop us from dipping our toes in. Shortly after, we set up camp and then headed off for a hike. Now, all trails reviews said this hike wasn't really the best, but it was walking distance from camp, so we went and we were amazed. This was the best hike we have done yet. We found a private little lake where we sat for a while and then continued up the hill, and the higher we got, the more insane the views were. Look at this. Then the sun started shining down on us as we finished up our hike through a beautiful field of wild baby breath flowers. The next day, we decided to stop by the Viking Museum in Lofoten, and we were not disappointed. We went into a replica of a Viking house and saw how the Vikings lived, how they ate, everything even down to their belief system. We then walked down to find the Viking ship, which we got to take a little spin on, and then we even got to try our hand at archery and axe throwing. Then we made it to one of the most popular spots on our itinerary, the Lofoten Beach Camp. I haven't mentioned, but every single camp we have stayed at has been extremely clean and has awesome amenities like kitchen, showers, toilets, even laundry. This campsite has all of those things, plus surf lessons, yoga lessons, a sauna, a bar, a cafe, an insane beach. Literally so much to do here. We took advantage of some of these amenities here, including this yummy dessert and this lovely sauna, before the weather started getting very windy, rainy, and cold. So the next day we waited the storm out by driving to a new cafe and then going back to the camp to do some video editing and movie watching. The next morning we set out on a hike that would cross over a short ridge into a secluded beach. We had to cross through some pretty rocky terrain and some mud, but the beach was very beautiful. And we actually ended up going back to the campsite we stayed at on our second day because it was just so cozy. Our last day camping, we started off by grabbing some more juicy strawberries before we set up camp at this spot right next to the water. Then just about a 10-minute drive down the road, there was this short yet mighty hike to this incredible cave/waterfall. I think this was my favorite hike. It was such a good way to end our trip to Lofoten. We made a pit stop back in Oslo to recharge and reorganize because the next morning we would be taking the train from Oslo to Bergen. Guys, the train took 7 hours, and I thought, that's okay, the view will be worth it. I think not, because the fog and the rain stole the show. But we made it to Bergen safely, and the first order of business was to find this popular hot dog place called Trekronen and try a Norwegian reindeer sausage. They put this hot honey mustard and boysenberry jam with crunchy onions on top, and somehow those flavors mix perfectly because it was delicious. To go along with the rainy day vibes, we opted for some hot cocoa at this place called fjord, and they don't mess around when it comes to their chocolate. They also make handmade marshmallows. Next up, we walked over to the famous fish market. Even though we weren't hungry, we had to check it out. There was every type of sea creature you could think of there. We went back to the hotel with some amazing pastries we picked up last minute from Baker Brur and literally went into a pastry coma. In the morning, we went to check out the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Bergen, which are these wooden walkway and houses. And this is kind of what the infrastructure would have looked like back in the medieval times, because Bergen is very old. It goes all the way back to the year 1070. We then walked through the fortress that seems to still be used by the military today. And here's another view of those famous houses from across the water. We decided to get some exercise after the pastry feast from last night, which meant hiking to this viewpoint. We started from the bottom and had a nice incline with a pretty nice view of the city, walking through green forest, and made it to the top to a really gorgeous view. Most people take this little tram service up, but I really enjoyed the walk, and it's cool to watch the funicular going up and then back down from the top. But the best part about this all was really the view of the ocean and the city, even watching the ships pass by. So we worked up an appetite, of course, and we wanted to go back to the fish market to try some savory snacks. We ended up trying whale. It was really kind of bloody and chewy, to be quite honest. It didn't have much of a flavor at all, but we followed it up with this delectable steamed mussels. It was so good. In the evening time, we grabbed a cup of coffee and went on a nice evening stroll around the city to sum up our last day in Bergen. All right, everybody, so about 2 weeks have passed and we're getting ready to leave Norway. But just a quick summary overall, we really loved it here. We would definitely come back. Oslo was amazing for museums and history. We really liked Lofoten. It was cold and rainy, but when it was sunny and clear, it was absolutely breathtaking there. And Bergen has been so cute and cozy. The food has been amazing and very walkable, and we got to try some different things here. So overall, Norway has been such an amazing experience, and thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one.